Have you ever wondered why your grandmother's house was always filled with thriving green plants that seemed to grow effortlessly in simple glass jars and vases? Today, we're counting down the top 25 indoor plants that your grandma knew would flourish in nothing but water, no soil required. These time-tested beauties have been gracing windowsills and kitchen counters for generations, and I'm about to share every single secret your grandmother used to keep them thriving year after year. Before we dive into this incredible countdown, let me tell you something that might surprise you. Your grandmother wasn't just lucky with plants. She understood something that many modern plant parents have forgotten. Water propagation and hydroponic growing isn't some new trend. It's an ancient art that our grandmothers perfected long before Instagram made houseplants fashionable. They knew which plants would not only survive but absolutely thrive with their roots submerged in nothing but clean water. Now, you might be thinking this sounds too good to be true, but stick with me through this entire countdown because plant number 7 is going to completely blow your mind. It's a common household plant that most people throw away, but your grandma knew it could live indefinitely in water and even produce food for the family. Plus, when we get to the top 5, I'll reveal the secret ingredient your grandmother always added to her water that made her plants grow twice as fast as anyone else's. Let's start our countdown with number 25, the prayer plant. Your grandmother loved this beauty because she could simply cut a healthy stem, place it in a clear glass jar filled with water, and watch as roots developed within just 2 weeks. The prayer plant, scientifically known as Maranta leucanura, gets its name from how its leaves fold up at night like hands in prayer. Grandma always said this plant was teaching us gratitude, and she was right to treasure it. This tropical beauty thrives in indirect light, making it perfect for those cozy spots in your home where direct sunlight never reaches. The key your grandmother knew was to change the water every few days and keep the jar away from heating vents. Coming in at number 24 is the beloved heartleaf philodendron. This trailing vine was probably cascading from your grandmother's kitchen shelf or bathroom counter, its heart-shaped leaves creating a waterfall of green that seemed to grow longer every day. What made this plant special in Grandma's eyes wasn't just its beauty, but its incredible resilience. She could take a cutting from her existing plant, pop it in water, and within 3 weeks have a brand new plant to gift to a neighbor or keep for herself. The heartleaf philodendron produces roots so quickly in water that your grandmother probably used it to teach children about plant growth and responsibility. At number 23, we have the Chinese evergreen, a plant your grandmother cherished for its stunning variegated leaves and its ability to tolerate the lower light conditions common in older homes. This slow-growing beauty could sit in the same glass container for months, requiring nothing more than fresh water and the occasional dusting of its gorgeous leaves. Grandma knew that the Chinese evergreen was practically indestructible in water, making it perfect for busy households where daily plant care wasn't always possible. The silver and green patterns on the leaves reminded her of delicate lacework, and she often placed these plants in her most treasured vintage vases. Number 22 brings us to the spider plant, and oh my goodness, if there was ever a plant that defined your grandmother's green thumb, this was it. The spider plant was her gift that kept on giving because it produces little plantlets, called spiderets, that dangle from the mother plant like tiny green spiders on a web. Your grandmother would snip these babies off and place them directly in water where they would root within days. She probably gave away hundreds of spider plants over the years, spreading joy and greenery throughout her entire neighborhood. The best part about spider plants in water is that they actually prefer it to soil in many cases, developing thick white roots that look absolutely stunning in clear glass containers. Rolling in at number 21 is the arrowhead plant, another trailing beauty that your grandmother absolutely adored. For its ability to adapt and thrive in water indefinitely, this plant earned its name from its distinctive arrow-shaped leaves, though Grandma probably called it by one of its many nicknames like Nephthyitis or Goosefoot plant. What made this plant special in your grandmother's collection was its incredible ability to change its leaf shape as it matured, starting with simple arrow shapes and developing into more complex, divided leaves over time. She loved watching this transformation happen right before her eyes in a simple glass jar on her windowsill. Number 20 is the rubber tree, and while you might think of these as large houseplants, your grandmother knew the secret of keeping them compact and beautiful in water. She would take a healthy cutting from a mature rubber tree and place it in water, where it would develop an impressive root system and maintain its glossy, dark green leaves indefinitely. The thick, leathery leaves of the rubber tree made it perfect for Grandma's less-than-perfect lighting conditions, and she appreciated that it required minimal maintenance while providing maximum visual impact. The milky sap that gives this plant its name was something she always warned the grandchildren about, teaching them to handle plants with respect and care. Coming in at number 19 is the Dracena, a plant that your grandmother probably called a corn plant because of its long, strappy leaves that resembled corn stalks. This slow-growing beauty was perfect for Grandma's patient gardening style, developing slowly but surely in its water-filled container. The Dracena could tolerate the lower humidity levels common in heated homes, and Grandma knew that misting the leaves occasionally would keep them looking their absolute best. She often chose decorative containers for her Dracena because she knew this plant would be a long-term resident, sometimes staying in the same spot for years without any problems whatsoever. At number 18, we find the peace lily, a plant that held special meaning for your grandmother because of its elegant white flowers that seemed to bloom just when she needed a little hope or comfort. While many people struggle with peace lilies in soil, Grandma discovered that they absolutely thrive when grown in water, developing robust root systems and producing those stunning white blooms more reliably than their soil-bound cousins. The dark green leaves provided beautiful contrast in her home, and she loved how the plant would droop slightly when it needed fresh water, making care incredibly simple and intuitive. Number 17 brings us to the Coleus, a plant that your grandmother grew not for flowers, but for its absolutely stunning foliage that came in colors she could never achieve with paint. Deep purples, bright greens, vibrant reds, and golden yellows all swirled together in patterns that made each leaf look like a work of art. Grandma knew that Coleus cuttings rooted incredibly quickly in water, often showing new root growth within just 5 days. She would take cuttings from her outdoor Coleus plants at the end of summer and bring them indoors to enjoy their colorful beauty all winter long, in simple glasses of water placed on every available sunny windowsill. At number 16, we have the Wandering Jew, though many people today call it Tradescantia or inch plant. Your grandmother loved this fast-growing trailing plant for its purple undersides and striped upper leaves that created a stunning two-toned effect, cascading from her hanging planters or tall containers. The Wandering Jew roots so aggressively in water that Grandma probably had to trim the roots regularly to keep them from taking over their containers. This plant grew so quickly that she could start with a tiny cutting and have a full, lush plant within just a few months of water growing. Number 15 features the aluminum plant, a compact beauty that your grandmother cherished for its unique metallic-looking leaves that seemed to shimmer in the light. The silver markings on the green leaves reminded her of delicate aluminum foil, hence the common name that stuck in her generation. This plant stayed relatively small in water, making it perfect for Grandma's collection of small decorative containers and vintage teacups that she repurposed as planters. The aluminum plant required very little care beyond regular water changes, fitting perfectly into her low-maintenance gardening philosophy. Coming in at number 14 is the Impatiens, a plant that your grandmother probably knew as Busy Lizzie because of its tendency to be constantly in bloom. While most people think of Impatiens as annual outdoor flowers, Grandma knew the secret of bringing cuttings indoors and growing them in water, where they would continue blooming throughout the winter months. The bright flowers in shades of pink, white, red, and orange brought cheerful color to her home during the darkest days of winter. She would take cuttings from her outdoor Impatiens before the first frost and enjoy their beauty indoors until spring returned. At number 13, we discovered the Swedish ivy, a trailing plant that wasn't actually from Sweden and wasn't really an ivy. But your grandmother didn't care about botanical accuracy when she had such a reliable and beautiful plant thriving in her water gardens. The round, scalloped leaves and trailing habit made Swedish ivy perfect for hanging containers or tall vases where its stems could cascade gracefully. This plant rooted so easily in water that Grandma could share cuttings with every friend and neighbor who admired her beautiful trailing displays. Number 12 brings us to the begonia, specifically the angel wing variety that your grandmother adored for its distinctive wing-shaped leaves and delicate clusters of pink or white flowers. These begonias would bloom almost continuously when grown in water with adequate light, providing Grandma with fresh flowers for her dinner table throughout the year. The spotted or speckled leaves added visual interest even when the plant wasn't blooming, and she appreciated that water-grown begonias were much less prone to the fungal problems that sometimes affected their soil-grown relatives. At number 11, we find the Christmas cactus, a plant that holds special memories because it probably bloomed every holiday season in your grandmother's home. This unique cactus doesn't look like a typical cactus at all, with its flattened, segmented leaves that cascade from containers like green ribbons. Your grandmother discovered that Christmas cactus segments root beautifully in water, allowing her to propagate new plants from her existing specimens. The key she learned was that these plants needed cool temperatures and shorter daylight hours to trigger their spectacular holiday blooms. Number 10 features the geranium, a classic grandmother plant if there ever was one. While most people think of geraniums as outdoor plants, your grandmother knew the secret of taking cuttings and growing them in water indoors during the winter months. The round, fragrant leaves and bright flowers in shades of red, pink, white, and salmon brought the essence of her summer garden indoors during the cold months. She would often root multiple geranium cuttings in the same large jar, creating full bushy displays that rivaled any expensive floral arrangement. Coming in at number 9 is the mint, and this is where your grandmother's practical side really shone through. She knew that a sprig of mint from the grocery store or her garden could be placed in water and would not only root, but continue growing indefinitely, providing her with fresh mint for her tea, cooking, and homemade remedies. The aromatic leaves released their refreshing scent every time she brushed against them, and she loved having multiple varieties like spearmint, peppermint, and even chocolate mint growing in jars on her kitchen windowsill. At number 8, we have the basil, another practical choice that shows how your grandmother combined beauty with utility in her water gardens. A few stems of basil from the grocery store or garden would root quickly in water and provide her with fresh herbs for cooking all year long. She knew that pinching off the flower buds would keep the basil producing tender, flavorful leaves indefinitely. The sweet, aromatic scent of basil growing in her kitchen probably made every meal preparation feel special and connected her to the earth even during the winter months. Now we're getting to number 7, and this is the plant I promised would blow your mind. The sweet potato vine is something most people throw away, but your grandmother knew it was actually a stunning decorative plant that would grow indefinitely in water. She would take a sweet potato from her pantry, suspend it partially in a jar of water using toothpicks, and watch as it sprouted both roots downward and beautiful heart-shaped vines upward. These vines would eventually trail several feet long, creating a spectacular display that cost her absolutely nothing. But here's the incredible part. She could actually eat the leaves as nutritious greens, making this both a decorative and edible addition to her home. Number 6 brings us to the fiddle leaf fig, a plant that has become trendy in recent years, but that your grandmother was growing in water decades ago. She would take a cutting from a mature plant and root it in water, eventually growing it into a stunning specimen with those distinctive large violin-shaped leaves. The key she discovered was that fiddle leaf figs needed bright, indirect light and consistent care to thrive in water. Once established, these plants would grow steadily, adding dramatic height and tropical beauty to her home. At number 5, we have the Monstera deliciosa, also known as the Swiss cheese plant for its distinctive holy leaves. Your grandmother treasured this plant for its exotic appearance and its incredible ability to grow in water almost indefinitely. She would take a cutting that included at least one node and place it in water, watching as it developed both roots and new leaves over time. The aerial roots that this plant produces naturally made it perfectly adapted to water growing, and Grandma loved how the leaves would develop more and larger holes as the plant matured. Number 4 features the golden pothos, often called devil's ivy, though your grandmother probably knew it by its more common name, money plant. This trailing vine with heart-shaped leaves marbled in green and gold was probably one of her most reliable water plants. The pothos could tolerate low light, irregular watering schedules, and even poor water quality, making it perfect for busy grandmothers who wanted beautiful plants without fussy care requirements. She could take a cutting and have a fully rooted plant within 2 weeks, and the long trailing vines looked spectacular, cascading from high shelves or hanging planters. Coming in at number 3 is the bamboo, specifically lucky bamboo, which isn't actually bamboo at all, but a type of Dracaena. Your grandmother loved this plant for its association with good fortune and its incredibly simple care requirements. The straight green stalks would grow slowly but steadily in nothing but clean water, and she could arrange multiple stalks in decorative containers to create living sculptures. The key she learned was to use distilled or filtered water and to change it regularly to prevent algae growth and maintain the plant's health. Number 2 brings us to the ivy, most commonly English ivy, a trailing vine that your grandmother probably used to bring greenery to the shadier areas of her home. Ivy cuttings root incredibly quickly in water, often showing new white roots within just a week of being placed in their containers. The small, lobed leaves created dense, lush displays that looked expensive but cost almost nothing to maintain. Grandma knew that ivy preferred cooler temperatures and higher humidity, making it perfect for bathrooms or north-facing windows, where other plants might struggle. And finally, our number 1 plant, the one that every grandmother seemed to have and the one that probably started your family's love affair with houseplants, the grape ivy. This wasn't actually related to grapes, but the 3-leaflet compound leaves reminded people of grapevines, and the trailing habit made it perfect for Grandma's hanging planters and high shelves. Grape ivy was virtually indestructible in water, tolerating neglect, low light, and temperature fluctuations that would kill more sensitive plants. Your grandmother could take a single cutting and eventually have enough plants to fill her entire home, sharing extras with friends and family members who admired her green thumb. Now, I promise to share the secret ingredient that your grandmother added to her water to make her plants grow twice as fast as anyone else's. The answer is surprisingly simple. She added a tiny amount of liquid fertilizer to the water every few weeks. Just a drop or two of balanced liquid fertilizer in each container provided the nutrients that plants normally get from soil. She knew that plain water could sustain her plants, but enriched water would help them thrive and grow vigorously. But there's another secret your grandmother probably used without even realizing it. She talked to her plants, and while that might sound silly, her daily interactions meant she was constantly checking on them, noticing changes, and addressing problems before they became serious. She would spot algae growth early and change the water, notice when leaves looked droopy and move plants to better light, and catch pest problems before they could spread throughout her collection. Your grandmother also understood something that many modern plant parents forget. Patience is a virtue in gardening. She didn't expect instant results or get discouraged when plants took time to establish themselves. She knew that slow, steady growth was often healthier than rapid growth, and she was content to wait for her water plants to develop into the stunning specimens that graced her home for decades. More importantly, the therapeutic benefits of tending these water gardens probably contributed significantly to your grandmother's well-being. The daily ritual of checking her plants, changing water, and watching for new growth provided structure, purpose, and connection to nature even when she couldn't spend time outdoors. The living green presence in her home improved air quality and created a sense of vitality and life that made her house feel welcoming and nurturing to everyone who visited.